So, what can a 500-year-old book about power politics really teach us about Donald Trump? Well, as it turns out, a whole lot. Today, we're diving into a really sharp analysis that uses Machiavelli's classic, The Prince, as a lens to understand the dynamics of modern power. Let's get right into it.
And this right here is the central question of the entire analysis. What does happen to a country when a leader decides that power is more important than truth, that their own survival trumps morality, that image is worth more than actual human suffering? The source we're looking at frames this not just as political commentary, but as a very stark warning about the nature of governance itself.
All right, here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the Machiavellian warning itself. Then we'll explore the mindset of what the source calls an insecure ruler. After that, we'll uncover some classic strategies of distraction. And then, well, we'll look at the price of all that power. We'll wrap things up with an examination of what this analysis calls an unfinished story.
Okay, so first things first, we need to be really clear. The analysis we're breaking down isn't using The Prince as some kind of how-to guide. It's not about that at all. Instead, it's using the book's timeless insights as a framework, a kind of analytical lens to understand the mechanics of modern power. And once you start looking through that lens, the patterns, well, they're pretty hard to ignore.
A huge concept in Machiavelli is this idea he called fortune. Now, you can think of fortune as just chaos, the unpredictable, sometimes ruthless stuff the world throws at you. A successful ruler, Machiavelli argued, has to be flexible. They have to adapt to it. And here's the core argument from our source. Donald Trump's rigid, unyielding approach is a classic Machiavellian mistake. It's a failure to bend when the winds of fortune are blowing against you.
So, we've talked about the external forces, right? Fortune. Now let's shift gears and look inward, into the internal world of the leader. Because according to this analysis, a deep-seated insecurity is the real engine driving so many of Donald Trump's decisions.
And this is what you could call a paranoid loop in action. When a leader, like Donald Trump, starts labeling the press, judges, former allies, and whistleblowers as the enemy. The source says this isn't a display of strength. It's actually a self-defeating strategy that just isolates him more and more, and it reduces the act of governing to this constant, frantic battle for personal survival.
This slide just lays it out so perfectly. On one side, you have substance, real things that affect people's lives, like lowering rent or creating jobs. And on the other, you have symbols, renaming buildings, plastering a name everywhere, rebranding spaces. The analysis argues that when a leader's focus shifts this dramatically from substance to symbols, it's a massive red flag. It suggests an attempt to build a legacy on a foundation that's already cracking. And here's the key takeaway from that. These symbolic gestures are designed to project this image of overwhelming dominance. But when you look at them through a Machiavellian lens, they actually reveal the complete opposite. A leader who is deeply insecure about his own legitimacy and his place in history.
So, what do you do when you feel that foundation starting to shake? According to our source, you reach for the oldest tricks in the political playbook. Let's explore the distraction strategies that this analysis says are used to prop up a failing leadership. And the pattern is both simple and, well, ruthless. First, your problems at home are spiraling, and your approval ratings are plummeting. So then, you ignite some kind of external conflict to distract from all the chaos at home. And just like that, the entire national conversation shifts from your domestic failures to this new foreign threat.
This slide really gets at the power of language in all this. Rhetoric about stolen land or external enemies isn't really about protection. It's a calculated tool. It's meant to create a villain, redirect all that public anger outwards, and shut down any talk of internal accountability.
But beyond just distraction, the analysis points to a blatant disregard for the law. It stops being seen as a foundation for society, and instead becomes this annoying obstacle that has to be bulldozed. Withholding records, altering documents, every single act sends a clear message. The rules don't apply to the powerful. And that's exactly how you erode public trust in the very institutions of democracy.
But of course, these strategies always come at a cost. So what is the real-world price of trying to maintain this kind of manufactured reality? In this section, we're going to examine the consequences for both the nation and for the leader's fragile hold on power.
This quote just cuts right to the heart of the problem. When the official story clashes so dramatically with your own daily reality, it doesn't just ring hollow, it fuels resentment. The source is crystal clear. Ignoring the economic suffering of the people is pretty much a political death sentence.
And this slide really puts that pain into sharp focus. We're talking crushing rent, soaring healthcare costs, wages that just can't keep up with inflation. These are the core anxieties that are being ignored. And just like Machiavelli warned, a ruler who turns a blind eye to the suffering of his people is basically inviting his own downfall. After all, hunger is a much more powerful motivator than loyalty.
This is the turning point. A leader can endure criticism, even ridicule, but when the public simply stops believing anything he says, his authority just crumbles. That consent from the people evaporates, and power becomes nothing more than a hollow shell.
And here is the fallout from that disbelief, in black and white. You can see approval ratings are in free fall, not just nationally, but even in the very regions that were once his strongholds. This is the hard data that shows the strategies of distraction and denial are failing.
So, where does this all lead? Our source doesn't offer a simple conclusion. Instead, it presents a pretty chilling warning. This is a predictable pattern of decline, and the most dangerous chapter might be yet to come.
And really, this isn't just a critique of one man. The analysis frames it as a cautionary tale for all of us. It's a warning about the danger of mistaking loud noise for real leadership and confusing blind loyalty with genuine accountability.
And this brings us right back to that core Machiavellian principle. His true genius wasn't in teaching deception, but in understanding that power, fear, and even lies all have limits. The source concludes that a ruler who refuses to recognize those limits is on a collision course with reality.
And so, the final question posed by this analysis isn't really about the leader, but about us. When the warning signs are this clear, will people act before the damage becomes irreversible? The answer to that question, it suggests, will define our future.